Welcome to Stab the Dragon Productions, episode number 180 or thereabouts. Movie review number 9, as tonight we step into some film noir with Nightmare Alley from 1947. We watched this film for the first time yesterday, Friday, August 16th, 2024, and immediately saw why this one is considered a classic in the genre. Now I'm going to pour a glass of Cutty Sark blended scotch. And you'll know why I chose this drink a little bit later in the show. Let's talk about the plot. Now, first of all, the pronunciation of the word film noir. I'm going to probably use the Texas pronunciation, which is film noir. Okay, I don't like anything French. I know how to say the French word, but I don't like it. So if you hear me say film noir, that's because I'm in Texas. All right, so let's talk about the plot. Stan Carlisle was a carnival worker, who assisted Mademoiselle Zena, an alcoholic husband Pete, in their mind-reading show in a traveling carnival in 1920s Texas. I think 1920s. We'll discuss that later. Stan tries to romance Xena, but she resists his advances out of loyalty to her drunken husband and alludes to the fact that she had been unfaithful earlier, and that's why he's a drunk now. Stan, though, eventually accidentally poisons Pete with the wrong bottle of alcohol and then convinces Xena to work with him using the secret code she and Pete had devised in a vaudeville act before they became part of the carnival. And that was before Pete had become a drunk. So now with Pete out of the picture, dead, Stan, again, he tries to romance Xena, and that doesn't work. So now he's working with Xena, and they, wow the crowds with this plan that Xena and Pete had developed years before, using code words as they interview people in the audience. Stan then romances the younger and beautiful Molly, but their affair causes a problem with the Carney crew, so the Carney crew basically forces them to get married, and Molly and Stan take the secret code trick to Chicago, where they hit it big time. After a period of success, Stan overreaches, tries to run a scam on the wealthy clients of a psychologist, and here's where the femme fatale part of film noir strikes. Stan is bested, and he's ruined. So that's basically the plot. Let's look now at the themes. The movie looks hard at fate, which is a classic theme in Western literature from the Iliad on. In this movie, Stan looks at the carnival geek at the start of the show. The geek is the crazy wild man show. Eats live chickens and stuff like that. I mean, he's portrayed as a man, brought up in the jungle or something. And at the beginning, Stan wonders how a person could fall so low that they would end up with that job in the carnival. So that's an interesting thing. He looks at somebody and says, "How could you get to that position?" Well, we'll see. This is where the sad tale takes Stan by the end. It's not mere fate, because Stan deliberately runs a scam that makes a mockery of the rich people, of religion and philanthropy. He deliberately starts drinking and becomes an alcoholic. He's the ultimate cynic and demonstrates the philosophy of noir by believing nothing is sacred. It's all about making a buck. It's all about scamming people, proving others to be fools. Elements of The movies certainly touch on other movies that I've seen, like Elmer Gantry, or it touches on some of the scandals of the radio preachers of the early 20th century, like Amy Semple McPherson. So this absolutely makes the film, I think, current for 2024 with all the preacher scandals that we've been having. The film shows that average people can be gullible and naive as they fall for the tricks of the carnival. The local sheriff is played, and at the end, when Stan has fallen and is just a hobo, he again plays fellow hobos and shows them how the scam works. The movie ending, though, departs from the novel by including a touching scene as Stan receives some hope for redemption at the end. Now let's talk about some complexities in this story. While no date was given in the movie, and the movie was made in 1947, I think the setting fits the 1920s, Prohibition era, due to the types of vehicles that they used and the way that alcohol was mentioned and used. Cutty Sark does not show up in the movie, but Cutty Sark was famous. It's a famous Scotch blend that was smuggled into America, shall we say, during Prohibition. And the Cutty Sark became really the #1 Scotch in America there for a while, partly due to Prohibition. Prohibition was from 1920 to 1933. In this movie, though, moonshine was mentioned and consumed. And moonshine was a popular drink. I mean, local distillers who were out in the woods with their stills, avoiding the police, the ATF, the guys who were enforcing the alcohol laws. They would make moonshine and sell it. But some of the moonshine was bad. You know, when you're making whiskey, there's certain kinds of alcohol that you can't consume, and it will kill you. And so if you make your alcohol wrong, you can end up killing people. Or one of the common things was bathtub gin, and if you did that wrong, it could lead to blindness or death. So that was a thing back in the Prohibition days. And so that shows up in this movie with the death of Pete. And also, you know, the way that they drink, the way that they buy drinks, it's kind of a subtle, hidden thing. They're not open about it. They got to sneak around and do it. So I really think this is 1920s during Prohibition. So how that affects the theme, though, alcohol abuse was, I think, definitely part of the theme. It shows not just the physical dangers of alcoholism, but the way that it ruined the lives of the people there. Now, the spiritual complexities are also interesting. The movie shows how empty people at the bottom of society and at the top of society struggle with finding meaning, struggle with guilt, struggle with loss and grief. So both at the bottom of society and at the very top of society, there's a spiritual emptiness there that the movie portrays. The lowly, drunken carnival worker and the well-to-do, respectable businessman who wants to communicate with his long-dead lover, both are spiritually empty. The nihilism of Noir shows how this void in the human heart leads to susceptibility to being victimized by some good-looking, smooth-talking huckster like Stan. But that tiny bit of hope and grace that comes in at the end, that was a definite change in the movie that didn't seem to fit. Well, come to find out, in the original novel that the movie was based on, that wasn't there. That little bit of hope change there at the end was included because the Fox studio chief, Daryl Zanuck, insisted on it. Zanuck was skeptical of the movie project because the star, Tyrone Power, had been a big star before in swashbuckler movies, romantic movies. And so taking on this role, a very dark role in this kind of a movie, he didn't think it would work. He didn't think the audience would receive this kind of a change by this particular actor. And so he wanted that little bit of hope tossed in at the end. Well, Zanuck was correct. The movie, the ending there, the ambivalence, the hopeful little bit of grace there at the end, lightening up the dark movie, that didn't quite pull off what he had hoped. And the movie was not a financial success. But this ending, though, I found, even though it was kind of odd, it didn't really fit the rest of the movie, it does give a slight ray, I think, of Christian hope in an otherwise very dark, nihilistic noir plot. It shows that despite the meaninglessness, the depravity, the disappointment that life brings, there's some love at the end that can break through. And so just as a Christian, I found that fascinating for this type of a movie. Now, my recommendation, if you're exploring film noir, this is a movie that should be on your list. If you check movie lists of 20 best noir movies of all time, 100 best noir movies of all time, whatever. This movie, where's the case? This movie will probably show up on that list somewhere towards in the top 20, I think. And so it's known as a classic, even though it wasn't well received in the day. Now it's a classic, and there's been a remake. I think in 2021 maybe there was a movie, same title, same plot and everything, same characters, that came out. I haven't seen that remake, but so my recommendation, if you like something like Sunset Boulevard, this gives you an inside look at show business and stardom and falling from stardom. This movie has some elements that are similar to that. If you like maybe The Great Gatsby, then this movie again may have a little bit of similarity there, or perhaps the movie Elmer Gantry. You're going to see some things that might be familiar. So some details. So that's my recommendation. Is this? I consider this to be a very good movie. My wife and I both enjoyed it, so I'm going to highly recommend it. But again, for the modern viewer, you've got to already have some kind of an interest or affinity with movies from back in the 40s, film noir in particular. Some details. This 1947 movie was directed by Edmund Goulding, produced by George Jessel for 20th Century Fox. Stars include Tyrone Power as Stanton Carlyle, Joan Blondell as Xena, Colleen Gray as Molly, and she really impressed me with that, and Helen Walker as Dr. Lilith Ritter. Oh yeah, the femme fatale there. The movie was based on the 1946 novel by William Lindsay Gresham, and Gresham, who collaborated with the movie production, he ended up committing suicide in 1962 in the same hotel room in New York in which he wrote the novel. The screenplay was written by Jules Furthman, who cooperated with William Lindsay Gresham. The music I thought was very appropriate for the. I mean, man, it sounds like Perry Mason movie there at the start of or Perry Mason music at the start of the movie. And the score was by Cyril Mockridge. The movie was expensive, they say, employing top stars of the day and building an actual carnival and hiring a lot of real carnival workers as extras. But financially, it didn't pay off. The public didn't receive it. Critics kind of were spotty on this one. Some didn't care for it much at all, although many recognized the excellent acting of Tyrone Power. But again, as time goes by, this movie has been accepted more and more, and really has a very high rating now as a classic bit of noir filmography. The runtime is 111 minutes, and it is black and white, which to me, I mean, when you ask people about film noir, some people say they have to be black and white, although there's the certain themes and style of movie can be in color. But some purists say no, black and white only. We prefer the black and white movies. There's just an aspect of that we enjoy in these older movies. All right, well, that does it for Stab the Dragon this time around with this film review. Out here.